Today we've got a great revenge story about hunting down credit card thieves. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, eat your stale bread. My husband, 30-year-old male, and I, 28-year-old female, have only been married for 3.5 months, but we've lived together in the past. I'm constantly picking up and cleaning up, while he waits until the clutter gets to be too much. For that reason, I usually leave his desk and other personal spaces alone and tend to other areas while letting him do as he sees fit with things in areas. The only thing that bothers me is when he doesn't clean up after himself in the kitchen. He'll leave cereal boxes completely open sauce bottles on the counter, all of that. Most of the time we have to toss the things he leaves out because our kitchen gets so hot. We don't have central air and heat. Yesterday, he made a sandwich and left a newly bought pack of bread opened on the table. I brought it to him and made him put it up properly. However, last night I noticed he did it again. This time I didn't do anything. I waited until this morning when I knew it would be stale and inedible and brought it to him again, telling him I'd be buying my own bread and he'd better finish that pack and not touch mine. After arguing with me that it was still edible and realizing actually it wasn't after squeezing the pack of bread himself, he replied, "Well, I don't want to eat that." I just shrugged my shoulders and reiterated that my bread will not be touched. His face was enough for my satisfaction. This story just feels like a personal call out because I'm so bad at maintaining clean as you go. I kind of have like waves to it where I get everything back to square one all nice and clean, and then I'll clean as I go, and then things just slowly start accumulating until it's a giant mess and I've got to go do a marathon cleaning session to get it back to square one. Upset Pachyderm commented, "My husband never learned how to clean as you go because his father wouldn't let his mother teach him. Men don't clean, that's women's work," he'd say. So my husband's method was to make messes all week and then clean it all on the weekend. When he would cook, the kitchen was a disaster. I finally got so fed up I just left the mess. About midweek, he noticed that there were no clean pots or pans. I told him, "That's okay, just wait until the weekend and they'll miraculously all be clean." The look on his face was awesome. After that, he'd still cover the kitchen in dirty pots and pans, but the next morning he'd wash them all. Never did get him tuned to clean as you go. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy awesome stories of revenge, it would be amazing if you left a like or left a review if you're listening to my podcast. Our next story is, I can't leave? None of us can leave. When I was in high school, I wasn't very popular, nor did I have a lot of friends. I was picked on and bullied quite a bit, especially by the people in my grade and classes. I was chubbier back then, and the students in my class had given me the esteemed and clever nickname of Fat Butt, and that's what they called me throughout high school. It sucked, but I never let it get to me. The last time I saw most of them was in the government-required provincial exam, where we were all gathered together in the auditorium to do one final test. This test was taken very seriously. Once the test started, we couldn't talk, get up, or look around, all under the supervision of our 3 principals. It was just after the test started when I felt it. This grumbling, gurgling thing was rapidly traveling through my innards, and I knew this was going to be bad. I raised my hand, a principal came by, and I asked to go to the washroom. Before I could even finish, he stopped me and said, "You should have gone before the exam. No one is allowed to leave. You'll have to hold it." This was not something that could be contained. I doubt it was even from this world. It was coming and it would not be ignored. I discreetly looked around at my classmates who had tortured me for years and knew what had to be done. I leaned forward, lifted my butt off the chair, and unleashed the biggest loaded fart of my life. Its birth call encompassed the entirety of the auditorium and was immediately met with laughter and jeers from my classmates. The principal sprang into action, attempting to get the situation under control, telling everyone to quiet down and get back to their tests. And then the smell hit. This had the pungent aroma of 7-day-old Texas roadkill left in the sun and marinated in a finely aged cream, garnished with straight sewage. Everyone started coughing, hacking, making disgusted sounds, and trying to get up. I fondly remember one person saying, "My eyes!" Again, the principal told everyone they couldn't leave. This is a provincial exam. Sit down and finish the tests. I was crying with silent laughter while the principals were desperately opening doors and windows, but it didn't help. We sat in that foul funk for 15 minutes before it returned to whatever world it crawled out of. I moved and never saw them again. but I'll always remember the principals gagging while trying to waft the fumes out with an open-close motion with the doors. I've done a few of these state standard tests in my lifetime where they say literally once the test starts, you cannot get up, you cannot leave, you cannot go to the bathroom no matter what. Now thankfully, I can say that I've never had a situation like this pop up, but I certainly feel bad for anybody that has, and you certainly just got like the rumble guts going on, or God forbid it's a situation where like your time of the month unexpectedly starts, and you still got an hour to go. I guess it's just too concerning that you might go to the bathroom and cheat while wiping your butt. Agitated Basket 7778 commented, "Well done. Though I admit I was afraid you were going to crap your pants, which still would have been epic, but it's kind of a self-defeating victory then." Our next story is Annoying Guy at Work. One time I was working on a construction site for a fancy hotel. The owner had a lot of money and was basically rebuilding this crumbling Victorian building from scratch. He was one of those old money types, silk suits and fancy vaguely British accent and everything. Not a bad guy, but obviously living insulated in that rich person bubble a lot of people like that live in. Never had to worry about having money for groceries and rent, that old kind of vibe. He would come and inspect the site regularly and talk with the workers. Very casually and friendly, no pressure on us at all. Really a great guy to work for, except sometimes his son would make these visits instead. Guy was a grade A rich jerk. Only job he'd ever had was from his dad, and that basically involved coming to sites like ours and acting like a big shot. He would click his fingers at us and treat us like hired help, demanding we bring him coffee and stuff and talking to us like we were his servants. He would constantly make us do pointless status update meetings purely to make himself feel more important, meetings that wasted a lot of time. Now, after a few weeks of this, me and the guys came up with a plan for some petty revenge. Now, the hotel was almost finished and the plumbing completed for the first floor, so we had all the porta potties removed. Not really necessary when you've got a brand new bathroom to use. Much nicer than a porta-john. Now, this new bathroom was not located in an obvious spot within the complex of the hotel, so the son and his dad come around again for a visit. The son, being a total jerk as usual, demands another meeting. Before he does, I saw him looking around for the porta potties and obviously not finding them. I quickly usher him into our meeting cabin, ignoring that he was looking for a bathroom. We generously pour the boy an extra large coffee and begin an exhaustive summary of our progress. Well, after half an hour, he's obviously squirming, but I make sure to keep going in more detail about the project. He asks where the bathroom is, and I say that we're awaiting new porta potties to be delivered. The guys find it hilarious and are sure to drag the meeting out as long as possible. Not one of them told him we actually had a bathroom. Not only do I think people like that bring this upon themselves, they also just don't have like the real world experience to understand when they're being played with. Like surely in a perfect world he'd be able to understand there's no way that all of these construction workers would still be there doing their job if there wasn't a place for them to do their business. Like, surely they had to have some kind of solution for themselves? I mean, shoot, if anything, maybe all those workers made him have a newfound appreciation for all those workers who do such a hard job without even having a bathroom to go to the whole time. Sean BZA commented, "I would have plied him with more coffee during the meeting as well. Then also a few biscuits as well, the ones you get at good stores, all for him, just to ensure he drinks the extra pots of coffee." This next story is, refuse to wait on us until after the deal expires? This is what happens. This is a story from my dad as I was very young when this happened. Once upon a time, many years ago, there was a Friendly's where we would frequently get breakfast. And back in that day, there was a deal available. You could get 2 pancakes, 2 sausages or strips of bacon, and 2 eggs for $2.22. So long as you were there before 11 a.m. So we go with a large party to Friendly's and arrive at the empty restaurant before 11 a.m. And then we wait, and wait, and wait some more. We are not waited on until after 11 a.m. And so the staff refuses to give us the deal. We end up ordering the same things we'd get with a $2.22 deal, but because we aren't waited on until after the deal had expired, it cost much more. With a group of our size, we ended up with a sizable bill. I'm not sure of the exact amount, but it was over $100. Now, my dad is a waiter. He understands well the importance of tips and almost always tips generously. But not on this day. Oh no. On the day of the incident, you know what tip my dad left? $2.22. I almost wouldn't be surprised if it was intentional. They might make some total BS excuse like, we had to make sure that we could clear the tables to put together for such a large group or something. But in reality, if the owner realized this $2.22 promo was maybe one of their most popular deals, this huge group was arriving before 11 a.m., and there was a chance they could just delay, and get them in after 11 o'clock and milk way more money from them, it would be so worth it. I mean, I'm assuming OP was right in the fact that it was almost empty. Tiki Tavi commented, I've seen managers intentionally make staff do stuff like this. Promos are usually lost leaders and therefore reduce any bonuses the managers get. Our next story is warm pillows. For years, our middle child has been teasing his younger siblings with his favorite saying. He would taunt them and say in an affected voice, "May your pillows always be warm on both sides." They could never think of what to say back to him, and we didn't correct him as it seemed quite harmless. We've been having exceptionally warm weather, and the homes here do not have air conditioning and are built to retain the heat in cold winters. Cue a very hot and humid day and an even more humid and sticky night. Our youngest children had gone to bed hours earlier and were sound asleep. Our middle child went to bed and within 2 minutes was standing in our room with a look of utter fury on his face and a filled hot water bottle that he had found under his pillow. We don't know which sibling got their revenge, but it sure was petty. All I know is that I would be affronted by this saying. I'm the kind of person that definitely likes to keep it cool. I would actually be disappointed if both sides of my pillows were always warm. Although it feels like a high amount of people I've met in my life always say, I actually prefer it to be warmer. KM Flushing commented, now that is beautiful. I hope you're proud, even if you're not sure exactly who to be proud of. I'd be giddy with it. Our next story is, pass me over for promotion, everyone gets new appliances. I'm currently benefiting from some petty revenge. Basically, the management company for my apartment complex passed over the woman who'd been here for 25 years for a new guy who doesn't know his butt from his elbow. One of those Neanderthal types with vacant eyes and his mouth always hanging slightly open. So this lovely woman now decides that her precious mission to save the company money is fruitless and will never gain her praise or compensation like she'd hoped. So, suddenly, when I made my fourth complaint about my dishwasher, she just ordered me a new one. AC unit not working well? Let's get you a brand new, more efficient one. One button on your microwave stopped working? Here's a new one. It's great, and I bet they're regretting it now. I mean, yeah, if I was working at a place that long and they looked over me too, first of all, I would be feeling like, okay, well, it's inevitable I'm never going to get prioritized here. And B, after 25 years, I hope that you're actually getting close to an age where maybe you're in a position where maybe you could retire soon. It's like at this point, just do your job in the best way possible that hopefully wouldn't bring you attention, but kind of just lets you ride the clock out at this point. No Cockroach 4248 commented, I am sure she does not need a gentle reminder to have the new guy sign off on all replacement appliances. OP responded saying, except the appliances actually do need replacing, it's just that the company hasn't wanted to replace them, so they do cheap fixes or no fix and say it's fine. The manager tested my AC and it was indeed not working correctly. It was 15 degrees hotter in my apartment than it was outside. He put the air on full blast, came back in 3 hours to use the temp gun to test again, and it hadn't gone down at all. All she's doing is making sure the check happens when it hadn't been before. Same with my dishwasher. It has legit not been working for months and they kept giving me lame excuses and dumb non-fixes. They've also not fixed the blinds on my sliding door 3 times because the track itself is broken, which has led to several broken blinds and the pole being bent. She just made sure that they would give me a new one when I got my new dishwasher. Our next story is, tells me I have the position, had everything in writing, working for them for about a month in total, then says, your position is no longer needed. This all began a little under 6 to 9 months ago. I was freelancing as a software dev for about 3 to 4 months. My longtime friend was starting to work for a company that basically provided knowledge on the best stocks or cryptocurrencies to trade. They had an LLC, a license, a website, social media, and investors that were interested in the services. I was told by my friend that he wanted me to be director of IT, basically headlining up the entire IT side of the company. I would code, evaluate others' code, debug, do threat mitigation, everything. I could even hire my own employees that would work under me and work on things I give them to do, things I had no time for due to the vast amounts of coding I was going to undertake, apparently. I asked what my salary or pay I could expect would be. They said, "You tell me what your hourly expectations would be, and I'll talk with my boss and see if we can agree on something." And so I waited. I waited until about 2 to 3 weeks later, not doing anything until I had something in writing. I've been messed with too many times before and knew if I did any work without approval, they wouldn't pay. Eventually they said, "Okay, so we will pay you per project based on the necessity or amount of time it takes to make even a mildly working application." I said, "Okay, then how much should I expect for this, a project we were currently working on?" And he said, "I can pay $200. And I agreed to it because the project was fairly simple and wouldn't take me long. I finished the project, got paid, and then about 2 weeks later, I found out through a mutual friend, not even them, that they had left the company. The friend told me they left because there were too many complications with staff, blah blah blah. Nothing involving me, I thought. I find out a little later that seeing as they left, they wouldn't be able to pay me, as they already had a person in a different country that was coding for them. I basically cut my losses with that and continued being their friend. A few months later, they call me and absolutely ecstatic, telling me, "This is your big break. You'll be making exactly this much. You'll be the head of IT. Your skills are extremely valuable to me," which in hindsight turned out to be utter lies. I was getting texts from them, "Here's what I need you to do today, tomorrow, etc. Can you purchase the domain name? I'll pay you back," which I trusted they would, because they've been good friends for 6+ years. So I purchased the domain, set it all up, made email accounts for each of the staff, etc. After all this, he texts me, "Can you hop on Discord for a quick sec?" And so I do. I get on a video call with them and another manager. They say basically, "In all respect to you and your skills as a professional programmer, we have found that your position is no longer needed." And I said, "Okay," and that was that. "No, sorry, I know you're my friend and we've known each other for 6+ years, but we just don't have a need for you." It was more like, I need to put on my business suit and say to my friend of many years that he has no place in our company. It was like a gunshot wound to the gut. After 6+ years of friendship, gaming together, laughing and chatting, they just basically didn't advocate for anything they said in our first call. So here's the petty revenge part. After many weeks of fuming over being fired twice by my own friend and realizing that you can't really trust friends that you haven't spoken to in a while, I decided that I would take drastic measures to let them know I mean business. They already had a different site for all business needs, like clients, contact info, etc., so I wasn't really ruining the main site. Basically, it's like this. Their site was imawebsite.com and mine is imasite.com. So they were very similar, only one of the words was cut off. I took off all the emails I had created, all the data on the site itself, deleting everything I had made. They really hadn't used the site except to log in and check it worked. So there wasn't client data or email sent or received, etc. I turned their site into a portfolio of my services, basically stating that, "You want a site like this? Contact me and we'll set up an appointment." And eventually, I'll hopefully be setting up some marketing or something, making sure my site comes first in search results. All in all, don't mess with someone who you didn't reimburse for a site you had made and then fire them cause we found we don't need you. Man, I wonder how many times stories like these make people take on a more cynical view of the world. Like hearing a tale of somebody who was friends with another guy for 6+ years and was doing these things basically on the trust that your 6+ year friend is not going to backstab you, only for them to do just that. It sucks because people like that stand to make other people who have 6+ year friendships go, "You know, can I trust my longtime friend?" BioBazan commented, "Don't forget to have a link to a competitor." Our next story is, Neighbor's friend parked in car spot, so I blocked him in and made him apologize. Hopefully this fits here. Used to live in a duplex with a double car park at the end of the driveway, 1 car spot for each resident. Anyway, neighbor had a friend over and decided they would take the spare spot next to the neighbor's car. I've come home after work to find someone in my car spot, so I did the only logical thing and parked directly behind them, blocking them from being able to reverse out of the tight driveway to go home. Content with my actions, I went inside and told the wife my only hope was that they needed to leave before I did the next morning. Sure enough, about 2 hours later, there was a soft knock at our door and a very sheepish man tried to explain he didn't realize it was my park and he was very sorry. He asked, could I please move my car? I said sure and moved so he could leave. Never saw him again. It was extremely satisfying. I only wish I'd been outside to see his face when he realized he'd goofed. I mean, if you found that situation happening to you, what more could you do besides park directly behind them? Unless you'd rather look for another open spot and take somebody else's parking spot for whatever reason. Superfly2024 commented, exactly what you should do. I did this in high school. We had to pay for parking spaces. Twice a week I would get to school late because of the co-op college course I was taking. Some jerk was always in my spot on those days. I left him a note twice and had to find a vacant, unpaid spot halfway across the high school campus. The third time I just parked behind him in a way where everyone else could leave except him. They called me to the office and I got in trouble. He was a football player, so of course they have special privileges. He didn't park there after I did that though. Some people think rules don't apply to them. SMH. This next story is, I hunted down my credit card thieves. Yesterday morning, I received an email notification from my credit card company stating a transaction for $1,500 at a med spa was declined, and another stating it was approved. I immediately called said credit card company to report the fraudulent charge. Turns out, my card has had fraudulent charges over the past 3 weeks with purchases including various hotels in my area, eBay, gas stations, self-storage, and moving truck rental. I rarely use this card. The last time I used it in person was in February, and last online purchase was in 2023. Fortunately, my credit card company flagged all recent charges and closed my card. This morning, my significant other had a doctor's appointment in the same city as a hotel purchase made yesterday. After the doctor, boyfriend asked me what I thought we should do today. I said, well, you wanted to shop for some new shoes? Or we can swing by this hotel up the street and see if the credit card thieves are still there. The amount seemed like it would cover 2 or 3 days. So boyfriend and I go to the hotel to see if the people were still checked in and to let them know the card was stolen and the charges would be reversed. Front desk lady was ticked. She was able to find the reservation by card number and noted that the person had kept changing cards to pay for the room. Of course, they didn't tell me the room number, much to my boyfriend's dismay. Boyfriend was hoping to get a room key to take their stuff. LOL, right? I called the credit card company and they asked me to call the police. I called the sheriff department and they arrived within 20 minutes. I was surprised they even came. I gave them my report, ID, and credit card. The deputy asked if I wanted to prosecute. I said yes, but can I prosecute if my credit card company is going to refund all the money anyway? Then they went inside and spoke to the front desk who provided them the invoice. Boyfriend and I waited outside in the front of the lobby. Then, through the automatic sliding doors, I hear the front desk lady yell, "That's him! He's trying to leave!" Light Hispanic dude with a bull terrier and several bags gets placed in cuffs. He gets brought outside, searched, and Doggo gets cuffed to a trash can. Then another little Asian guy gets brought out in cuffs. A third deputy arrives and brings out a fancy Asian lady with a face full of fillers, 2 suitcases, and a Coach backpack. 4 officers start going through the backpacks on the hood of their car. We see passports, IDs, credit cards. They pull out a big credit card printing machine and a laptop. Then they pull out a big Ziploc filled with crystal, and the cop exclaims, "Here we go," and turns towards us to flash a smile. 2 of them go back to search the hotel room and bring down 2 bags with more drugs, a scale, 4 car keys, and a big wad of cash. Unfortunately, none of the cars were in the parking lot, and the perp said they'd been traveling by Uber. The cops contacted one of the thief's friends to pick up the dog, who arrived pretty quickly. It was an older Asian dude with tattoos, flashy jewelry, and an old luxury SUV. Don't worry, we got his pics and license plates. All these guys seemed like characters out of The Brother's Son. The deputies then gave me all the paperwork and told me that one of the guys said they stole my card off of the internet. I would have guessed that they had used the scanner while I was at the fair a few weeks ago. I find that so weird because I haven't used my card online in almost a year. Apparently, they made a physical card that had a different name on it. Anywho, I walk inside to give the front desk a copy of the incident number, and then I remembered something else. I remember seeing another transaction for a storage unit that was made yesterday and 2 charges at a rental truck company. I go back outside and talk to the sheriff and asked him if he wanted me to try and figure out where that was. I was able to track down the storage location to a city about 15 minutes away, but no can do on the trucks. I called the storage place and they confirmed that a payment was made with my card but would not give me the unit number. From there, the sheriff said that it was out of their jurisdiction and they would try to get a search warrant, but that might take a while. However, it might be helpful if I made a police report with the other city, so with nothing better to do, I drove my butt over there and made another police report regarding the storage unit. That's it for now. We'll update if anything else happens. In the meantime, I will call up the credit bureau to freeze my social security, tell my dog to be on alert, and load magazines. Any other suggestions? Also, Copper asked if I wanted to prosecute, but that was before the drug bust, so do I need a lawyer? Thanks in advance. So I'm definitely no expert, I am not a lawyer, but when OP asked when the cop asked them if they wanted to prosecute, do they need a lawyer? My answer would be it definitely doesn't hurt to ever have a lawyer, but I don't believe that's actually a situation where you yourself are actually prosecuting that. Am I wrong in my understanding that that whole thing would just be kind of handled by the DA? That maybe the most OP has to do is give their testimony or maybe even be there? Haymaker commented, "But can I prosecute if my credit card company is going to refund all the money anyway?" Yes, these are criminal charges, grand theft. When they say, "Do you want to prosecute?" they really mean, will you cooperate with the DA when they file charges? Will you testify against them or at least help with the investigation? With the meth, the grand theft is probably small beans, so they may not even ask. They then quoted, "I would have guessed that they had used a scanner while I was at the fair a few weeks ago. Someone may have used a scanner and then sold the number on the internet. Always beep your card. Never swipe." This next story is, cable company kept calling to recharge even after disconnecting service. Booked tech support to fix non-existent TV box. My old TV finally broke down, so I got a new smart TV. Couple weeks later, I realized that no one in the family watches any TV channels. Everyone goes for streaming content. I decided that it's not worth it to pay for the TV connection anymore. Now, my TV connection is added into my phone plan along with my internet as well, so disconnecting it was not straightforward. It was a custom plan with its own dedicated relationship team. It took several calls to the team to find a resolution, which was to convert the TV connection to a prepaid one and then stop recharging. After the conversion was done, I got messages for a few weeks to recharge, and then finally a message to return the set-top box. I responded to that, and in a few days, the box was collected from my place. Good riddance. Or so I thought. Next started calls from random call centers for recharging. It felt different from the dedicated relationship team. I googled and found out that this had become the practice in my country. The company had outsourced this part of the support to a third party, and they simply checked from the printed database about people who had a connection but did not recharge last month. Since my disconnection was in the middle of the month and their printed database was from the beginning, they did not have this updated info. I tried my best to inform them about this to no avail. I started talking to the callers, informing them of the fake problem my TV was having connecting to the set-top box, and that multiple support requests have fallen on deaf ears. Also started recording the calls. Third caller took it seriously and booked tech support. Got a call from a field tech within hours. He came by. I greeted him with drinks and informed him about the real issue. We had a good laugh. He suggested that I keep it up a few more times for good measure. After 8 tech support visits, finally they got the message. Got a call from a supervisor asking why I was booking tech support when clearly I didn't have a connection anymore. I mailed him the call recordings. He was pretty annoyed. But I stopped getting calls so much. Any call I get now, rarely, like once a couple weeks, I just read from the same script, and if someone takes it seriously enough to try to book tech support, they get a short note against my ID to not bother this gentleman. I absolutely love this comment from Freak You That's Who that says, "Why am I booking tech support when I don't have a connection? Why are you responding to support claims if you know I don't have a connection? Literally, why in the first place are we having this conversation if you and your team know I don't have a connection? Why should I have ever gotten to the position where I could get that support?" But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy revenge story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.